You're listening to RJ Carbone's BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Running away. Oh my! There's been some great players played for the Knicks over the last 20 years, but in my opinion, he has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again, but God did it, man. I really just had to have faith in him, and that's what got me through.
That one's drilled deep to left field. Going back choice, looking up. See ya! 3,000. History with an exclamation.
Another chance here. DiVincenzo. He's got it.
Still. How good is Johnny Bones?
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is
tied. Into the left field and deep. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone. It's a grand slam. Anthony Volpe put a charge in one. A grand slam to left field, and the Yankees now take a 5-2 lead.
These episodes are going to look so funny on YouTube back to back because the thumbnails are two completely different thumbnails. My apologies ahead of time. I am a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to try not to sniffle, sneeze. You know, I got shortness of breath a little bit, so try to get through this. It's going to be a quicker than usual episode. I was thinking about doing audio only, but I'm actually recording this an hour and change after the Knicks took a loss to the Jazz. So usually I'll wait until the day after to have a cooler head. But I do have to also apologize because I watched this game down here in my studio. No, I didn't actually, which is why they lost. I usually watch my games, or lately I've been watching my games down here in the studio, which is where they went on that 4-0 run. But I switched it up for whatever reason because I thought, you know what, they're playing a shit team in the Jazz. Let me watch it on the bigger screen upstairs today. Didn't work. So my apologies for that. But yeah, it's kind of, we're back to where we were prior to the win against the Suns. I feel worried still, you know. This was an embarrassing loss. It was a humiliating loss. Disgusting. It was a little bit distasteful. Pitiful, abysmal, pathetic, revolting, shameful, but unshocking in ways. You know, you beat an irrelevant Brooklyn team 2 games in a row. You beat the Phoenix Suns reserve team, but you played zero defense. And you come out here against Utah, who is a terrible basketball team. And for some reason, you just can't win in that building. Where now I think you've lost 10 of your last 12 in Salt Lake. No matter who the squad is for the Knicks, no matter who's on that Jazz squad, whether it's Gobert, Conley, Joe Ingles, or this current group, it's a Jazz team that has the Knicks number for whatever reason. And we're talking about a pathetic 3-win Jazz team. Who are they? Dead last in the Western Conference, second to last. They're bad. That team faced an abominable Knick defense, which we can say it's abominable at this point. We are 15, 16 games in, and the team that has 3 wins came out on top. Because why? Because we're in 2024. And these are pro basketball players. So when you leave pro basketball players wide open, even they can produce good offense because it's an open gym. Offense doesn't mean a thing when you defend this poorly. and it's 2024. Everyone can score if they get an opportunity, and the Knicks were letting them score. So right now, I'm looking at this team at a very, very mediocre 9-7, and they're not a contender. The Knicks, as currently Saturday, November 23rd, as we currently speak here, the Knicks are not a contender. Do I think that they will be a contender at some point this year? Not going to lie, I don't even know if I can give you a yes on that yet. I'm the type of person where I need to see to believe, and I've not seen a single indicator that this team is going to turn it around defensively. I will say that while I'm skeptical on if the Knicks can get it together this season, that's this season. Because this group does have a pretty open window. There's not a single soul on this roster that's over 30 years old. You've got a number of guys, your core guys, on extensions and tied up. Right, Anunoby signed the big deal. Brunson got his extension. Hart is here. You got the Towns contract. Deuce McBride signed his deal last year. The window is there to where they can eventually get this done. I just think that this season might be, it's their first year together. So this season might be the year where they never really truly figure it out. I'm starting to get that feeling in me. Big picture-wise, that's okay. But it is a little bit disappointing, right? It's still a little bit disappointing. But that's where I am right now. I'm trying to lower my expectation now because I just don't think this is going to be the year where they win a championship. I think this is the year where they experiment and tinker with and try to figure it out, and they might run out of time in terms of trying to win a title with it this year. The first quarter wasn't terrible. Even defensively, they weren't off to the worst start. There were a lot of deflections by Mikal Bridges. He looked active on both ends. You were getting good looks, and it was a tie game, I believe, at the end of the quarter. Second quarter, Utah makes another run. Third quarter, the Knicks make their push with their bench unit. And then the fourth quarter comes, and the defense collapses once again. It takes a step back. And so the final score of this game, the Knicks lose 121-106 in Utah. And, it was a rare game where their offense couldn't bail them out, which is kind of what you want to see. It's like, you kind of deserve that. This offense has been on fire all season, but neither Cat or Brunson was on. And so tonight, you got what you got. They were uncomfortable from three. They had no rhythm, at the basket with Utah's length. Kessler was back in there tonight. So that kind of forced them into three-pointers that they were not comfortable taking. Early on, you had, again, a good offensive process. They were generating good perimeter looks off paint touches. You had some good Josh Hart drives. You had some good Anunoby three-point spot-ups. But that fell apart. And Utah used their length to switch heavy on the Knicks. And they also pressed the Knicks 94. The Knicks didn't really do a ton to counter that pressuring with, I was hoping for some high flat screens up top, which can be a good way to diffuse a switch defense and a defense that's pressing. And it's a good way to force them into a drop with early screening at center court. I also thought they could have did a lot more slipping with their screens and maybe some inverted screening too to counter the switch. But I don't know, kind of a very dull offensive attack. Brunson finishes with 23 points, 8 for 19, 2 for 9 from 3. Three-pointers were not falling. He was bad. The floater wasn't dropping. Some mid-range, that was about it. Couple threes later. Towns has 16 and 16. He was pretty bad. The defense was abysmal. The three-point shot was not there. His touch was not the same at the basket. He shot 6 for 19 overall. Mikal Bridges, 7 points. 3 for 15 shooting. 1 for 7 on his threes. And again, 0 free throw attempts. It's the same shit. It's the same shit with Mikal Bridges. The above the break 3-point shooting, not there. He had some ugly bricks on the wings today. That hitch in his jumper is so ugly to look at. He's not attacking the basket. So the whole free throw thing is getting crazy. Run him in some sets. Run him in some pistol. I don't know at this point. On the other end, his screen navigation was bad. It had been better for a little bit. But I didn't like the defense tonight. I don't know, man. It's not looking good with Mikal Bridges. I guess you just got to ride it out. You're starting to hear Deuce McBride chirps on Twitter. But that's Twitter. The Knicks are never going to do that. Not early. Because of optics. And they traded 6 picks for this guy. And it's not going to happen. Mikal just has to turn it around. I don't know if he will. Because he looks so bad. But yeah, like when the offense is not there, or on nights where the offense is even just average, it's a little scary because your defense is that bad. So you're gonna have to step up defensively, because there will be games like this. There will be more games like this season where the Knicks defense is gonna have to win them a game or two. And that's consistently not happening. That hasn't happened once. So. You go through the rest of the box score. Hart finishes with 17, 6, and 6. He was fine. He did the usual Josh Hart things. He mucked up the game. Just a little bit of everything. I thought the best Nick, OG Anunoby.
Bing bang.
Yeah, bing bong, I guess. That's not the right graphic there. Sorry. That's from last game. I don't have the graphics on the screen. So, the graphics might not be right on the screen, the one that was just showing, but I don't have the stats on display if you're watching the video format of the podcast. But OG Anunoby scored 27 points tonight, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 10 for 19 shooting, 7 for 12 on his threes. Across 36 minutes. That's his 3rd time this year as the best Nick on the floor, so he's got 3 game balls overall. The only Nick with life was OG Anunoby, especially in that first half. His defense, I guess it was better than everybody else's, but the defense, it's been the same old story defensively, man. This Knicks team is a traffic cone. They got 5 traffic cones out there. Not literally, because you've got good defenders, but it's not working. You let up 121 points to Utah. How many consecutive baskets are we going to have to watch? It's so tiring. The Knicks have allowed 120 points or more now in 6 of their last 10. And what scares me is, Thibs has actually made adjustments. Over the last week or so, he's actually made some adjustments with coverages, and it's still leading to hot garbage. Over the first chunk of games, the Knicks were primarily in drop with their 5. The last, dating back to the Brooklyn series, so the last 5 games, they've been doing a lot more blitzing. They've been hard hedging a lot more off those ball screens. But they're still getting beat. Now they're getting beat in rotation this way. They're bringing 2, and the opposing offense is finding the open man. Swing, kick out, swing. It's just, and not to repeat myself because I've been hammering this all year, but can we just one time try to go to a switch everything? Because you've got the personnel, because you've got a lot of wingspan, because you've got guys with quick feet who can move laterally. This way you're not beat in rotation. You're not beat on the roll. You're not beat on the back cut. You're not letting off that pocket pass. Cat checks back in the game after that big 17-0 run. A few minutes later, top of the 4th quarter, he comes back into the game, and there was a possession on a pick and roll where he hedges the ball screen, And there's just no activity, though. There's no aggressiveness. He's upright. He's got slow feet. The hands are not active. He doesn't recover to the roll. And, like, if you're going to hedge and you don't hedge aggressively, it's useless. Then there's no point of bringing a hedge. The point of a hard hedge is to take away the pocket pass, or at least make the pocket pass very difficult to get off. It's to force the offense to reset and have to isolate on the Knicks' best wing defender late in the clock. But, Towns hedges and he gives up the roll willingly. And that's time and time again. So, even with these adjustments, it's not leading to much success. When Towns is on the floor, they've yet to figure that out. The defense is horrendous. When Jericho Sims is on the floor, the defense is solid. But when Cat's out there, everybody needs to be perfect because he's that last point of attack. He's the last line. With Jericho, his rim protection numbers, the numbers. And he's able to switch when he comes to the perimeter if he has to. But he's an effective defensive big for them. He allows Anunoby, allows Payne, McCall, Hart, and all the other Knick wings to be more aggressive and help. The Knicks went on a 17-0 run in that third quarter. That came with Towns off the floor and Sims on the floor. Sims and Payne. The weak side defense was tremendous. So that was it. They've got to figure this out. And Jericho Sims, for as well as he played, only got 9 minutes. He was pulled in the fourth quarter, didn't play the fourth quarter. I didn't love that. I'm sure Knicks fans are going crazy on Twitter about that. I'm sure tonight's one of those nights where Thibs is, going to be called Hitler. But yeah, he pulls him, goes back to Towns in the fourth, and Utah, they did go on that mini run late in the third to follow up that Knicks run. And maybe he pulled them maybe he pulled Jericho because, he wanted to get some more offense in there. The offense slowed down, but I don't know, man. Listen, this is who Thibs is. He's always been a guy who's going to roll with his best. And Towns has been one of the league's best players this year. He's been arguably the Knicks' best player. And Thibs always sticks with his best. That's been him from day one. So I can't blame him for that. But at the same time, I do wish he had a little bit more feel there and had the balls to pull Towns in that fourth quarter and go back to Jericho. Or here we go. Like, at what point do you say, screw it, and at least experiment with those dual post lineups? With Jericho and Cat. Even before Precious returns, which he might be back soon, from what I'm hearing. But, I don't know. You can't, as much as I hate the idea of going to it for a long stretch, you can't keep going this long providing zero resistance on the other end. You cannot keep doing this. Now, maybe tonight you didn't want to double up on bigs because Utah's a big team. They have a lot of guys who can screen, in their front court. So it's kind of useless to use that strategy because Cat's going to be hedging anyway. But I don't know. With the right matchup, you might need to see more of these double big lineups with Cat down at the 4 just for a few minutes a game to get some stops. Again, Precious is back soon anyway. But Jericho has been holding his own. It's going to be interesting to see how they manage that because he's been putting it together. Jericho's been putting it together. Jericho Sims today, he was a plus 19 in 9 minutes. The second closest Knick in minus was Campaign with a plus 2. Everybody else was minus. Jericho was a plus 19 for a reason. He comes in that third quarter, and he's a big part of that run. So, should Thibs have stopped playing him in the fourth? I didn't think so. For what it's worth, he said post-game, Thibs did, that he thought about going back to Jericho but never did, so I'm sure that's going to go well on Twitter. Maybe that means he's changing. I don't know. Doubt it. But Jericho, the best Knick from the second unit tonight. That's his third game ball of the year. I'm just concerned, man. I don't know if they're going to get it together this year with this defense. Maybe eventually it clicks, but I don't see it happening this year. So with that all said, we're going to head to break, get back, talk about what's coming up next on the schedule, and then wrap it up with our trivia question. And I think that's going to be it. Short episode tonight. Just a tough loss. Be right back, though. Here on BD4, episode 749. Stay with us.
Hey there. Thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 749 of the podcast, the Knicks mortify themselves in a distasteful Utah defeat. 121-106 is your final score. They lose to the Jazz in Salt Lake. And in a game they needed to win, in my opinion. Tough to win 5 in a row, but you put yourself in this scenario because now you've got Denver coming up. Denver's coming up on Monday. Now, like the Knicks, Denver is struggling mightily. Just like the Knicks. They're 8-6. But Jokic just returned. So the Knicks had, they had that big win against Denver last year when they blew them out towards the tail end of their stretch. But they were on a little bit of a road trip. They just came back, or it was the last game of the road trip. That was their excuse, I remember. But the Knicks blew them out of the water. So I'd like for them to do that again. They haven't done that to a good team yet this year. Then they've got Dallas on Wednesday for the final West Coast game. Luka is most likely going to be out for that game. He got injured the other night, and they said he missed at least a week. And then they wrap up their road trip with an East Coast game where they go back to the East Coast and play Charlotte. They're in Charlotte on, I don't know if that's Thanksgiving Day. No, that's Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Always found that ironic. To play the Hornets. So ideally, in these next 3 games, Denver, Dallas, Charlotte, at the very worst, you have to go 2-1. You have to go 2-1 at the very worst. I'd like to take all 3, but 2-1 doesn't look as good now with this Utah loss. That's what I was saying. But you can't lose any more than one. And then you have to hope to finally get hot when you come back home to a pretty easy schedule on a 4-game homestand when you got the Pelicans, Magic, Hornets again, and Pistons. The Magic's really the only tough matchup in there. That's a tough matchup for the Knicks. They have a lot of length. They can switch everything. So, they'll test the Knicks offense. Pelicans are a long team too, but they're a friggin' mess. The whole Zion thing that thing's never going to work. So the Knicks have to get hot soon. So you're hoping at the very latest it's for that homestand. But we have to wrap up this road trip with 3 more games. And it's it's Denver coming up on Monday. So you have to win that. That'd be nice. You have to win 2 of these 3. But if you can win that, that's a big one. That'll kind of erase what you had happen tonight. So with that said, we're going to get to our final break and then wrap it up with our trivia question in just a few seconds. Be back soon.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right. Welcome back to the show. Episode 749 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We do Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to this podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch the video format of this podcast. But let's wrap this up with our trivia question, and then that will be that. All right, so for this episode 749, our trivia is last season, Karl-Anthony Towns finished with 5 games where he scored 30 points or more. How many does he have this year? All right. Last season, Towns finished with 5 30-point games. How many does he have this year? So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. One final time. Last season, Karl Towns finished with 5 games where he scored 30 points or more. How many does he have this year? All right, if you get the answer correct, I will give you a shout out in the next episode. And that's it. That is all we've got. The Knicks mortify themselves in a distasteful Utah defeat. Can you tell I was pissed off when I made that title? Yeah. I think I've said everything I needed to. So we're gonna wrap it up here short, couple minutes. So that's it. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you in 750. I'm gonna try to get a Yankees episode in. I'll try to squeeze one in tomorrow night, maybe Monday morning at the very latest, Monday afternoon. But anytime between now and the next Knicks game on Monday night, I'm gonna try to squeeze in a Yankees episode. Talk a little bit about the offseason. If I can get to it, that'd be great. If not, we'll get to it eventually, but we'll have something soon. So appreciate all my Knicks fans for tuning in. I really do. And that's all we've got for this one. I'll see you in the next show. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!